Hey, it's Tommy the Butcher for Wise Guys BBQ, and you know, we're in the dog days of winter. It's mid-January here in southeastern New England, and not only that, we woke up this morning with a fresh blanket, 6 inches of snow overnight. If you look over my left shoulder out the window, you can see snow. I couldn't think of a dish any better to do for you today than a slow braised veal hind shank with a saffron risotto. I mean, nothing screams comfort food as much as that. So don't even think about going anywhere, because this is gonna be a good one. But before we get started, please like, share, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you will not miss an episode. Stick around! We're cooking together. All right, we're gonna get started with our Veal Osso Buco, and this is not your typical Veal Osso Buco. As you know, we're using an entire veal shank. This happens to be about 3.5 pounds. We Frenched it, removed some of the meat off the bone to create that Thor's hammer, that lollipop type of effect. Now, these are gonna be very hard to find. I certainly do understand that. Normally, it's done with a sliced veal shank, a cross-cut sliced veal shank. If you can find those, by all means, you can substitute that for this particular recipe, so you don't have to use an entire whole veal shank. We did get this locally here in Rhode Island, southeastern New England. I purchased it from Frederick Veal Company. They're in the Federal Hill section of Providence. We'll include a link to their website in the description box. So check them out if you're local. They do a lot of fresh veal products, and they're both for retail and for wholesale. And I'm telling you, they're gonna do you well. This recipe can also be used with lamb shank, pork shank, beef shank. So there's a lot of substitutions you can do with this, a lot of leeway. So by all means, use what you have, use this technique, use these ingredients, and you're gonna be able to pull this dish off yourself as well. Now, if you've noticed, when it comes to Italian cooking, especially authentic Italian cooking, they pride themselves on the freshest ingredients, not only the freshest ingredients, but simple ingredients. They don't overload a ton of spices, herbs. It's very, very simple. They want the fresh, simple ingredients to stand out on their own. So, enough said, let's get going. So we're gonna be doing this OssoBuco. We're gonna be doing it on top of the stove today. We're not gonna use an oven. I'm gonna be using a Dutch oven, an enamel-coated cast iron Dutch oven. The entire cook will be in here. We're gonna brown it off. We're gonna add some of our aromatics. And then we're gonna let it do a very low and slow braise for about a couple of hours until this meat is definitely just falling off the bone. It's gonna be so tender, gelatinous, and delicious. You're gonna wanna see this. So if you don't have a cast iron enamel covered pot, by all means, if you have a stainless steel pot, that'll work just fine. And all right, I'm gonna shut up now, I'm gonna get going. So we got the heat going. We're gonna have about a medium heat. And we're gonna get this veal shank browned off first. But as always, we wanna season it. So I'm gonna just give it a little bit of salt, a little bit of fresh cracked black pepper. And I'm gonna add about, I don't know, maybe about a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil to this pot. This is a pretty wide pot, so about a 1/4 cup will give you just enough to cover the bottom and maybe about 1/8 of an inch deep. I'm gonna raise the heat a little bit, just a little bit, get a little bit more heat on here, so when I do add that veal shank to the pot, we'll see a little bit of a drama, we'll see a little bit of reaction to that heat, and it'll immediately begin to brown up. All right, so I've got my veal shank in the pot. I raised the heat to medium to get a little more heat on there so we can get a good sear. We want to get it all browned off on all sides. And then at which point, once we finally get it all browned off, I'm going to lower the heat to low, medium low. We're going to begin to add all our aromatics at that point. All right, just one thing to note, as you're doing this, once you put it, any meat for that matter, when you're doing that browning process, when you put it in, just let it sit, give it a few minutes. Don't be moving it around. You want that caramelization, that Maillard reaction to set up and form well. So if you're moving it around with it, playing it with it, it's just not gonna develop. It's not gonna happen. So have patience. be confident that in time you will achieve that result. All right, we've got our veal shank all browned off very nicely, and I just lowered the heat to low. At this point, you want to go as low as it can go, and we're going to maintain that low, maybe medium low at best, throughout the entire cook. Like I said, we're going to be doing this on top of the stove, not the oven, so we have to control that temperature. So the first thing I'm going to add is about 1.5 cups of chopped onion, and I'm basically just going to sprinkle this all throughout. Now, you don't have to be all too fussy when you chop these onions. Actually, a rather large dice is actually better, because these are going to be in there braising for quite a while. And this is another reason why you need that very, very low heat, because you want caramelization of the onions. You don't want to burn these. So I'm going to add these onions. I'm going to let them, just toss them around in that oil, let them soak up the oil, get them a little translucent. All right, next I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of minced garlic. This is probably about 3 or 4 large cloves. Just get that all in there nicely. Now, as always, whenever you add garlic to any dish, you want to put it in close to the end as possible, or as near the point where you're going to add liquid. Because if you kept this garlic in too long, simmering like this, or frying like this, you're going to burn it. So the minute you add a liquid, that'll cut that process off immediately, and you'll lock in the fresh fragrance and flavor of the garlic. And you'll know when that time comes, because you'll begin to smell the fragrance. All right, it's been about 2 or 3 minutes. The next thing we're going to add are 3 anchovy fillets. Now, what these are going to do, it's going to add like a umami flavor to it, a umami taste. It's going to add a little more complexity, a little more depth to our dish. So in I go with 3 anchovy fillets, and those will ultimately just cook down. They'll actually disintegrate in this liquid as it continues to braise in the bottom of the pot. All right, I'm stirring this up, and I can literally see those anchovy fillets. They're beginning to melt, and they will, in essence, they will actually disintegrate. You won't even see any presence of anchovy in this dish when all is said and done. It just delivers a umami flavor to it, and just gives it such a complexity and depth of flavor that's just gonna elevate this dish to something that's gonna be unbelievable. Now, another thing that is quite common with using this method, this technique with what am I trying to think of? The anchovies, is an aglio olio sauce. Aglio olio is a basic, common, very popular sauce for pasta, and it's basically just olive oil, garlic, some fresh chopped parsley, and they'll actually add 1 anchovy fillet to the oil as the sauce as you're making the sauce, and that will, once again, they'll just melt, they'll disintegrate, they'll disappear. You won't even know it's there in the finished dish. So it's gonna be great flavor in this OssoBuco. All right, this is cooking well. Everything's cooked down. Next, we're gonna add, I got 3 tablespoons of butter. This is gonna add a little more richness and complexity to the dish. We're building flavor. We're not using a lot of ingredients, but we're gonna have very simple ingredients. This is all gonna blend well together, and it's gonna be absolutely delicious. So I'm gonna get this butter melted. You know, I've seen a lot of OssoBuco recipes. There's a lot of tomato products in OssoBuco. Very, very common. It's a classic ingredient. You'll see more aromatics in the form of carrot, celery. But what I so love about this particular recipe, like I said at the outset, it's simple. Very simple flavors, very simple technique. Just requires a little bit of time, a little bit of love, and it'll eventually develop into a dish that, I'm telling you, you're not gonna do any other OssoBuco other than this way. You'll be sold. All right, my butter is all melted. Next, I'm gonna go in with about 1 cup to 1.5 cups of a dry white wine. And so we're basically creating and building our braising sauce, or braising liquid, I should say. Very simple. There's not gonna be much in there, but it's just gonna create enough at the bottom of this pot so that this veal shank will braise down to something very, very tender in about a couple of hours. So that's it. I got my wine in there. I'm gonna let it reduce maybe not quite half. I'm gonna keep my eye on it. And then we'll be putting the lid on this. Sit back, relax, and just let it go for about a couple hours. We'll come back every, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, take a look, rotate this veal around so that all sides can be exposed to that braising liquid at the bottom of the pot. All right, my sauce is coming along well. I'm gonna put the lid on it at this point. So we're gonna braise this for about 2 hours, I would expect, but we're gonna come back to it every 20 minutes or so, check on it, rotate that veal, and just keep turning it so all sides can be in contact with that delicious braising juice. So stick around, don't go anywhere. All right, so we're back and we're ready to get rolling with our saffron risotto. Our veal shank was braising for 2 hours. It is done. Now we put that off to the side. Now's the perfect time. We gotta let that rest. So while that's rested, it's the perfect time to do our saffron risotto. All right, so I have 4 cups of chicken broth, and it's barely at a simmer. So we're gonna be adding that periodically to our rice. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of saffron threads to that. Now I went ahead with my finger and I kind of ground them up. You can use a mortar and pestle, but quite frankly, that's not necessary. Just get them in a small glass bowl, and if you press it with your fingers, you'll accomplish the same thing. So I'm gonna go in with the 1 teaspoon of saffron threads. I'm gonna mix that up, and this will give us the saffron chicken broth that we're gonna be adding to risotto. So let that go, let it steep for a little bit. I have a medium or a 3-quart sauce pot. Actually, it's a saucier. We're gonna be using a saucier today. All right, let's get busy with this risotto. So I'm gonna add about 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil to my pan. And to that, I'm gonna add about 1.5 cups of finely chopped onion. You wanna go quite fine with this because we don't want large onion. This is supposed to, you want this to kind of meld in nicely with the rice. So do a fine chop. And we're gonna get those vegetables, these onions, translucent. You don't wanna develop any color on this. Now what's interesting about this risotto we're gonna do today, it's kind of more like a lazy man's risotto. You're gonna find that it's much easier than to do a traditional risotto. In a traditional risotto, you're using the same steps, but you're adding small amounts of liquid for a longer period of time. What we're gonna do is cut down that process. Rather than doing 6 applications of the chicken stock, the liquid, we're gonna cut it down to half, where we're initially gonna be adding small amounts at first, and we're gonna repeat that a second time, and then on the third time, we're actually gonna put the remaining chicken stock liquid into the rice. So you're actually cutting out half of the steps. You'll still achieve the same results. So we're gonna let these onions sweat, get them soft, let it go for about 2 or 3 minutes. All right, gonna add a little pinch of salt at this point. All right, these onions are looking fine. Now we're gonna add about 1.5 tablespoons, or maybe 2 or 3 garlic cloves, finely minced. All right, once this becomes translucent and soft, we're gonna add 2 cups of arborio rice. Arborio rice is a short grain rice, classic for using in risottos. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna stir this up. We're actually gonna slightly cook the rice. We want it to get all coated with the oil, with the onion, with the garlic, and begin to take on all those flavors. But this is a critical step in building a risotto before you go on to the liquid. All right, once you see the rice has absorbed all the oil, we don't want to get any color on this. So once it's pretty much, everything's absorbed, all the oil is absorbed, I'm gonna go in with about 3/4 cup of a dry white wine. And we're gonna stir it until most of the wine is evaporated. Now, while I'm waiting for this wine to evaporate, I have a stock pot with, actually a saucepan with 4 cups of chicken broth. And to that, I've added 1 teaspoon of saffron threads to that, which were, like I said, ground up with my finger. So we added that to the stock, and that's gonna be our saffron stock liquid that we're gonna be adding to this rice once we get this white wine evaporated. All right, that's looking good. I think it's time to start adding chicken stock to this. So we're gonna add about a cup or two at a time, basically just using a ladle, and I'm gonna just spoon it directly into the rice. Then all we have to do is stir and allow the liquid to evaporate to the point where it's almost dry. Then we're gonna add another cup or two of chicken broth to our rice. At this point, you wanna try to keep the rice submerged as much as you can into the liquid, because it'll cook much better, it'll absorb all those liquids and take on the flavors. As you're doing that, make sure you're stirring it constantly. So as you can see, a lot of this liquid has already evaporated just in the couple of minutes. Now with any braised dish, especially OssoBuco, we're doing the OssoBuco today. You know, classically it's served with a risotto such as this, or you can do a polenta or mashed potato. It's a perfect accompaniment to a long, slow braise, especially with the OssoBuco. All right, my liquid is, I would say 80% evaporated. I'm gonna let it go just a little bit more before we add any more stock. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. As you can see, a lot of this liquid has already been evaporated. So it's time to go in with another couple of cups, a couple of scoops, I should say, of our broth. It's already taking on that nice, creamy, rich texture. All right, about half that chicken stock has absorbed. So at this point, we're gonna lower the heat. We're gonna put a lid on it, and we're gonna let it do its thing for about another 3 or 4 minutes. And then we'll get more absorption of the chicken stock, and hopefully our risotto will all go together nicely. So stick around, don't go anywhere. All right, so our risotto should just about be ready. It's been going another 5 minutes. It looks perfection to me. So what we're gonna do to finish this off, as you can see, a lot of the liquid has absorbed. We're gonna check for seasoning first of all. Definitely gonna need some salt. And a little bit of fresh cracked black pepper. And then the last two key ingredients, we're gonna go in with 4 tablespoons of salted butter and about 3/4 of a cup of freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano. The butter and the Parmesan cheese just brought it to another planet right now. I'm gonna check for seasoning. Perfect. It's creamy, but yet that rice has a little bit of a bite to it. It's kind of al dente. So that cross between the al dente rice and the creaminess of it, it's just on another planet right now. So that's it for our risotto. I'm gonna put the lid back on. I'm gonna put it aside and let it hang out a bit. We're gonna let this rest a little bit further. Then we're gonna be plating the final dish up for you in just a minute. So stick around, don't go anywhere. All right, we're gonna get this plated up for you right now because, I mean, this is raring to go and I can't wait. So we're gonna start with a layer of our saffron risotto. We're gonna put it as a base right along the bottom. I mean, in this case, we're using the Wise Guys cutting board, but you can do this on a plate, on a big serving platter. So there's our risotto. Next, I'm gonna go grab this big veal shank lollipop or veal shank Thor's hammer because it's making quite a statement. There it is. Ain't much prettier than that. All right, so there you have it. We're gonna get this carved, we're gonna get it sliced up, we're gonna finish the dish off, and I'm hoping this doesn't all fall apart on me because it is so tender right now. You can't even believe it. It's like gelatin. So basically what you wanna do, kind of slice on an angle away from the bone, present it on top of the saffron risotto. Like I said at the intro, this is winter comfort food at its finest. Okay, we're gonna add a little bit of these rich pan juices from the pan. A little bit of fresh chopped parsley for garnish. So there it is, folks. A low braised veal hind shank OssoBuco with a saffron risotto. You know, I can't think of anything on the planet that screams winter comfort food more than this. If you know of anything, I want to hear all about it. So leave a comment down in the comment section, because we want to know if there's anything you think that'll dethrone our veal shank OssoBuco with saffron risotto that we did for you today. So hope you're gonna like this. Try it at home. You're gonna love it.